And welcome everybody to the Mental Health Hour with Kat and Derek. I'm Derek.
I'm Kat.
How is everybody today?
I'm
It's
great. How are you?
it's you know what? I'm okay, I guess. I mean,
Okay, you guess?
okay, I guess. Mentally stable. Is that a good word?
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good weekend.
It was.
Um yeah, finally got to get back on stage and tell some jokes.
Right. It was amazing. I
It
loved it.
was
My husband enjoyed himself, which is saying something because he never enjoys himself. He was super upset that we were driving 2 hours out there for an hour-long show. And then, we got there and he was like, yeah, that was good. That was fun. I liked it. And I'm like, look at you growing and shit.
look at that.
Right?
The army guy has a heart.
Who would have thunk it?
Yes, exactly. So today is episode 2 of the Mental Health Hour. Last week we just kind of focused on self-care and other things that we could do, to deal with our normal everyday shit that we live through.
Mm-hmm.
Today we're going to be discussing our toxic traits.
Yes, because everyone has them.
Yep, things that we do on a daily basis that are just toxic. Whether we realize it or not, they're not good for ourselves or for our partners.
Right. Or for your kids sometimes too.
Or for yeah. I mean,
like
family in general.
Yeah,
relationships in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Friendships.
So with that being said,
yeah.
I'm going to open up to the comments too. Anyone else that knows and identifies within a toxic trait that they may or may not have. Please, talk about that in the comments. And also, while I have you here, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, and all that fun stuff. Be greatly appreciated.
That was pretty.
It is, isn't it? I
like it.
I'm getting good at this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So anyway, I lost my train of thought. All right, so no, that's fine.
It distracted me. I was like, "Oh, look at that, shiny!
It's so pretty,
squirrel."
No, that's a toxic trait.
I know. Well, okay. But if you want to get into it, here's the deal. I want to preface this, okay? I was just reminded of this because I had actually forgotten, but I was editing one of my episodes last night, and everybody should listen to it because it's actually a really good episode. I suck at interviewing, by the way, but the guy is really cool. He's great, okay? So, point is, one of the things that I was reminded of was I saw something one day that I was telling him about on this episode, that you shouldn't look at your traits as toxic traits. You should just look at them as either supportive or unsupportive to your well-being. And I was like, oh, damn. Look at that. Because you can't say that eating chips and dip when you know you shouldn't have chips and dip is a fucking toxic trait, because it's not.
No.
It's just unsupportive to your well-being right now. And you're still going to fucking do it. But you can be aware that it's unsupportive while you're doing it.
Correct. No, the toxic traits that we're referring to are the ones that are straight up. Say, for instance, you and I are married. Okay, here's just an example of something that I do.
Of course you would say that. Mm-hmm. Use that as the example. Mm-hmm. I see you.
Okay. Anyway, this is one of the things that I always do, and even my wife has this trait as well, and so it gets really toxic when it happens. We'll be getting into an argument, and so say for instance, I say to you, hey, I'm working hard, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Excuse me. I'm still getting over the strep throat. And I'm busting my ass and doing everything I possibly can, blah, 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 blah. But then you go around, well, I work hard too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a toxic trait, because it's not about you in that moment. It's about the person, sitting there saying, hey, I'm tired. I'm frustrated. Exactly. And by you saying that, excuse me, you invalidate their feelings.
Correct.
There's a time and a place for you to talk about that.
Yeah.
But during that moment in time,
yeah,
it's not that time to talk
it's
about
not your time to shine.
Exactly. So I do that when she's talking about her being tired, and she does that in reverse.
Which I think is a natural thing, but I think that that's also a communication thing. I don't think that's necessarily a trait.
It is a trait, because it's something that is looked upon and causes even more of an argument. So then at that point, then the other person feels like they're not being heard and not being validated, and then it turns into more of a hurtful argument. Therefore, the whole point of the conversation now is null and void, and it's over. And now it's who is more tired, or who works harder, who does this. So yeah, so then then it becomes a competition. So it is toxic. It's very toxic.
Oh, it's a talk. I'm not saying it's not toxic at all. Oh, it is. I've been married for 12 years also. So, if you've ever been married for I think more than 2 years, probably, you've had this fucking argument. This has happened.
Yeah,
no doubt.
But it doesn't matter if you're bipolar, have mental illness or not.
No.
That is a straight up toxic trait, period. In most relationships. And that's why I bring it up as the first one I'm talking about, is because this is common in a lot of different relationships.
Oh, totes my goats. But I still believe it's not a trait. I still believe that's just a simple communication issue, because if you can just simply stop yourself before you say something like that, say your partner says, man, I'm so tired today. I'm really just exhausted. And I can't anymore. I can't adult anymore today. And then you stop yourself before saying, well, you're tired. Look, this is what I did today. If you can stop yourself from doing it, then, or rather stop yourself from saying something like that, then I think it's simply a communication issue.
Correct. But at the same time, like I said, though, you opening your mouth and saying those things is toxic.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like I said, I'm guilty of it.
What I would say is toxic is the invalidation of the feelings. That's a trait, I guess.
There you go.
Would be. Not necessarily what you said, just that the fact that you invalidated their feelings. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So, and I think, again, that goes, I think 99% of all couples in the entire world do that exact same thing.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to staying at home moms. The dad will come home from work, or vice versa, stay at home dads. The mom will come home from work, right, and be like, I'm so tired. I did this, da, 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 da. But then the husband or wife who's a stay at home person, parent is like, well, did you have an idea what your kid put me through today? Do you have any idea what that? And it just invalidates everything. Yeah. So it's there's a time and a place for everything, after they get done validating their feelings, and then they say, hey, so how was your day? Then at that point, then it's your part to talk, and your part to say, hey, this is what happened today, and this is why I'm feeling this way. And then you guys work it out together and say, okay, hey, all right, so I understand that you're tired. So why don't I cook dinner, and then give you a chance to rest, and then I can rest after dinner and you do the dishes. Something like, you know what I'm saying? Just those are just simple ideas to,
absolutely
move forward with those things. So one person talks, validates their feelings, and then the other one validates theirs, and then you guys work it out together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my first one that I know I am very, very guilty of. And if Christina's not watching, or if she is watching, she knows damn well that she does that exact same thing as well.
I just heard her. Where did she go?
Oh, she just brought me something and then left.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So,
now you.
I'll go next, since I'm the only other person here. One thing that I do that my son pointed out to me one day, because he is a badass, he informed me that I guilt trip a lot to get my way. Yeah. And I do 100%. And I realize that it's because I was raised that way. That's exactly what my mom did. She would, not like a lot, but I literally don't know what else to do sometimes. Especially with my kids, because we don't, don't believe in well, it's not that I don't believe in. So we started out spanking my son, but we don't anymore because it doesn't do anything. He doesn't care because, again, he's a badass and doesn't give a shit. So,
that is this major kink.
Bro, calm the fuck down. He was 4. Shut up. Go away with that shit.
Sorry. The comedian in me had to make a joke. My bad.
It's cool. So, anyway, he toxic trait. He just kidding. So I don't like whenever he was growing up and younger, taking things away, taking toys away, taking video game time away or whatever would work, and we would call it grounding him. But as he's getting older, I want him to do things just to be kind. And he's in this like preteen stage where he doesn't want to do anything to be kind. He just wants to do whatever he wants to do, which is cool. Figure out your boundaries, bro. Be a little bit selfish right now because you can. And I'm fine with that. But at the same time, there are times where like I genuinely need something from him and he's giving me a hard time. And I'm like, can you please just freaking help me out? Look, I understand that you're doing this, but I need you, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I don't know what to do. What do you think?
So that's a difficult one. Yeah, right? My sigh. So that's a difficult one. Because I do the same thing. But see, I do mine a little bit more aggressive.
Do you?
And it's part of it's part of but it's part of being bipolar. It is one of those things where I will say, fine, and let's say for instance, God, how do I even put this? Say for instance, I can't even think of a good particular, so I'll just make one up. Say for instance, I say I wanted something.
Sure.
Okay. And it didn't happen. And then we get into an argument about how I wanted this and, whatever else the case might be. Then it turns into an argument. And then I storm out of the room and say, fine, I didn't even want it anyway. That's that guilt trip. It's not, it wasn't even that important anyway, or whatever the case, that's where I come in. That's how I do it.
I see.
And I make it even a worse situation.
Yeah, so when my husband and I first got married, we were in a very toxic relationship, extremely toxic relationship. We have both grown to become better people now, but he used to do that shit. And on top of that, he used to do the thing where like he would storm off and expect me to chase after him. And I don't do that. So it caused a problem when I
see now when I storm off, I don't want people to chase after me.
Right.
Because I know I'm going through a manic episode and I just need a moment to just decompress.
But did you used to know that before you realized what was happening?
No, but I know I needed a moment to decompress. Now I know it's what it is, and now I know how to, center myself. But before it was just I just need a moment to relax and calm down because I knew what I was doing was wrong.
Right.
But so it's like just leave me alone before I make it worse. Then I'll come back. I'll come back when I'm ready.
Right.
But then, like at the same time, now it's like okay, now I know what I'm doing, and I just need to figure it out before it gets to that point.
Right. So. So just like in the past year and a half, my husband and I have really worked extremely hard on our communication skills. And because we used to argue a lot, like a lot about literally everything. And so one of the things that I have realized that has helped us immensely though, is sometimes, I'll feel us like the tension, start escalating type thing. And I will have to say, all right, wait, stop. This is not going in a positive direction. This conversation is not going to be productive pretty much beyond this point. I need you to start over and have it again, and let's try again. And every time without fail that we start the conversation over from that place and start again, like literally say different words, then somehow it actually makes it into a productive conversation that we can actually talk it out instead of like guilt tripping or storming off or fighting or whatever the case may be. If anybody else deals with that.
Yeah, like I said, that is one of my biggest traits.
Have you ever done that?
No.
You should try it sometime.
Maybe I will.
Yeah.
Maybe I will.
You should. Let me know how.
So what do you think? I mean, now that you're aware of that, guilt tripping one, what do you, how are you think you're going to deal with it going forward, especially when it comes to your kids?
I genuinely, if I think that I'm about to go into a guilt trip, because it takes a couple times, like he's had to point it out to me a couple of different times. But if I think now that I'm about to go into a guilt trip, I have just learned that I need to stop and accept the answer, because he's still a person. Like, even if he's my kid, I'm not the type of parent that's like, well, you need to do what I say because I've said it because I'm your parent. I say that jokingly sometimes, but I that's not the way I do it, like in actuality. And I always tell him, if there's ever anything that I've ever told you or done or told you to do, it's for a greater cause, whether it be, you need to learn something or for your safety. Like, I don't just do things because I think it's fun to punish you or because I think it's fun to yell at you or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. That's a definite, yeah. It's hard though to, once you're pointed out with the things that you do and what you do and what you don't do, it's hard to come to grips with that and actually say, oh, this is what I can do to fix it. Yeah. And it takes a lot more than just knowing what it is. It takes a lot of, deep soul searching and saying, okay, what do I need to do about it? And that's the hard part for a lot of people.
Oh, totally. Well, oh man. Yeah. It's a whole process. Like, you have to have somebody that's supportive enough to point it out to you lovingly. And then you also have to have somebody that can help you to, like, okay, I'll give you a perfect example. So my son, he has certain chores that are just his that he has to do regardless of anything else, right? Like, he empties the dishwasher every day. I do the dishes, he empties the dishwasher. That's the deal that we have, type thing, right? Or my son or my husband does the dishes sometimes. So I'll ask him to do an extra chore. Oh, and he takes out the trash. So I'll ask him to do like an extra chore, like vacuum the upstairs or something for me, just because I have either, cleaned something else and it's a give and take type thing. Like, if I've picked up the living room and done everything else and he hasn't had to empty out the dishwasher or the trash, and there's no way for him to do that right now, then I'll ask him to go upstairs and vacuum, the upstairs floor. And on occasion, though, because it's just something extra, I have to stop myself from, if he says, no, I don't want to, or no, I can't right now, I have to stop myself from giving the guilt trip to get him to try to do it, because I have to accept that that's his choice, what he has decided to do. And he has to accept that's his choice, what he has decided to do. What I want in the end, though, is for him to feel guilty himself, honestly. I want him to feel bad eventually someday, and it may not be that day. And I have to accept that. It may be someday, because I don't have to give the guilt trip. I don't know. I don't know if this is actually going to work or not, honestly, because I grew up with guilt trips, and that's just how my parents parent. And they also parented, I'm the parent, so you do what I say when I say to do it, and you don't ask questions.
That was my parents, yeah.
And I disagree with doing that, so that's not how I'm going to do it. So I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I hope that, if my son goes up and has his own kids, that he can figure it out or fix it or do better than me. I don't know, but yeah, that's how I hope to do it.
All right. So one of my other toxic traits, I just did right in the middle of the conversation, was I cannot be serious for too long without making a joke.
Right. Yeah.
That is because being serious for too long puts me into a bad headspace.
Sure.
And triggers me.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not coming up with something to laugh about or joke about in the moment, especially during a deep seated conversation, especially something that I know that I exemplify as well. Like, you know, you were talking about the guilt trip thing. I knew right away that was me as well. So like when you started mentioning that, I was like, oh, fuck. So I had to figure out a way to, you know.
Yeah.
And that is a big problem for me because, you know, whether I'm in a huge argument with my wife or my best friend or whatever, I will figure out a way to
make a joke,
you know, and that's my way out. And it's because I want the fight to stop. And I don't care what it takes. I will bow down and just say, fuck it. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I can't do this.
We can't just ignore this. Yeah.
So I'll look for a that's what she said moment, or I'll look for you know, just something along those lines to make it go, to make you just, you know, stop you dead in your tracks. And that is a definite toxic trait that I have. It's because I won't allow it to get beyond the point of too serious, and I'll just like spout off at the mouth.
Yeah. So I can understand in some situations where that might be an issue. However, I will say I appreciate it when people do that and break the tension like that, like with a joke, because when that happens, like when once the tension is broken, for me anyway, I can immediately go into laughing and having a good time and still be able to bring the conversation back and be like, okay, but for real though, like we actually need to have this conversation and have it in a calmer way. Like when the tension is broken like that and in a positive way, I can come back and have the conversation in a calmer way. So that it's not, so that it doesn't, you know, bring about tension. I mean, I understand that I don't think everybody can do that maybe, but I appreciate it when that happens.
Yeah. Usually when that happens though, I throw the whole argument off and then it becomes even worse. So yeah. And there are times like if my husband were to seriously mess up and do something like really, really blatantly wrong and then try to just like glaze over it with a joke, then yeah, I would probably be like, no, that's not the time right now. Hi, my name is Derek, and I am guilty of that as well.
I know. But if it's just, you know, a simple, hey, why didn't you do the dishes? Well, because I was working, you know, and then tensions start, whatever, then that is a simple argument that can be broken by tension with a joke, I think, and come back and be like, but for real, can you please just do the dishes next time or find time?
See, that's different. Those are simple arguments that, you know, it deserves a joke every once in a while. Now, when it's a knockout, bang out, fists are throwing, elbows flying, spit flying out of your mouth because you're yelling so loud, and then I make a joke because of something stupid that was said, that's when the problem comes into play, because at that moment I'm not listening to the argument and I'm not listening to what the person's saying to me about why they're angry at me. I'm listening for an opportunity to make a joke.
Right.
And that's a problem.
I see. Yes. That's called active listening. And it's
I'm actively listening for a place to make a joke.
Right. That's fucked up. All right, hold on. Because I'm trying to ask my husband what toxic traits, because I tried to ask my sister, like if there's anything else, because I'm going to give you one more, but that's all I got. So I'm trying to ask
but we can talk about other things that we know other people do too. So
yeah. Okay.
And besides, I have a laundry list of about 100 that I do. So
we're sweet. Okay. So I tried to ask my sister and she was like, I love you too much to think that anything that you do is toxic. So I don't think I'm the right person to ask. And I'm like, aw.
Bullshit. So that means she just doesn't want to tell you.
No, she's super duper duper sweet.
Exactly. So she won't tell you that she doesn't want to upset you, hurt your feelings.
That's true. That's probably true. So my husband does not give a shit about my feelings, so it'll be fine. He'll tell me. But he was like, what are you talking about? What is a toxic trait? What do you mean? And so I had to Google the definition of a toxic trait and give it to him so that he would understand what I mean.
Oh, I know one that he'll tell you. I know one that he'll tell you.
Oh, what?
That you don't know how to make fucking grilled cheese.
Did I tell you about that? Are you bro? No, I know how to make his grilled cheese now because he threw a fucking bitch fit.
Okay. So actually, that's actually a really good story about toxicity. Why don't you tell that story now again?
Oh, bro.
No, it's a good story of toxicity.
It is, but it's not my. Well, okay.
You've told the story. You told the story on Suck It already, so okay. I can go back and I can replay it if you really want me to.
No, it's fine. I got you.
You've already told it once.
So we joke about this now because I still laugh about it, and I laughed at him in the moment because it was just the most extra thing I have ever seen a human being do. And so he had just come home from training, and he had been gone for like a week or two, I don't know, but he had just gotten back that morning. And so I was going to make us all lunch, and I was super excited. I was going to make us all grilled cheese. And usually when I make grilled cheese during that time, I would burn like the last couple always. I don't know why, because the pan got too hot, obviously, but I would every fucking time burn it, right? So I was super happy. I was super proud because I didn't burn any of them this time, and I made them and they were perfect. They were golden brown. They were just a little bit golden brown. They were freaking perfect. They were beautiful. And so I bring them to him, and he said, "What is this?" And I said, "What do you mean, what is this? It's a grilled cheese. What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Well, these aren't grilled cheese. These aren't what?" And he like touches them and squeezes them real quick and is like, it doesn't make the sound that a grilled cheese makes. Bitch, what? You said what? What the hell does that even mean? And so he gets angry about this, okay? And I'm like, listen, if you don't want to eat the grilled cheese, you don't fucking have to, but you can go make your own damn grilled cheese then, because these are beautiful and perfect and you're an ass. So I didn't say all those words because my son was in the next room, but it was implied. Okay. So I took the grilled cheese and I'm like, fine, I'll eat it. And I took him off his plate and I put him on mine. And he walks into the kitchen and stops at the door and turns around and literally says, with like the same inflection in his voice and pain in his voice and everything, and goes, "You don't care how I like my food." Oh my God, I lost it. I laughed so hysterically. I was like, why are you gonna be so dramatic about it though? I could not. I still can't. And so I give him shit about that to this day and we call it the grilled cheese fight because it was too much. He didn't need to be that dramatic. That was ridiculous.
Correct. But that's why I said there's a lot of toxicity in that argument.
Right. Because I laughed at him because he expressed his feelings to me. That was not.
Exactly. So the first part was him not appreciating the fact that you cooked for him. Okay. Right off the bat, it was immediately, what the hell is this? Versus hey, I appreciate you making this for me. However, next time do this, or,
No, go ahead.
Hold on. But then at the same time, then he used the guilt trip, the guilt trip factor of, you just don't appreciate how I like my food. And then the fact that you laughed at him for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of toxicity going on in that argument.
Conversation. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So part of the reason that he and I have had such issues communicating is because we've talked about, he's on the spectrum. We just recently figured this out though. So he has a really, really hard time genuinely actually like forming words and figuring out what words to use to express his feelings. And so what he could have said instead of, you know, you don't care how I like my food was, hey, this is, I would have appreciated it more if you would, or not even really said it like that, but, you know, just, I don't like my grilled cheese this way. I really appreciate that you made this for me, but I like it a different way. But he did not know how he liked his grilled cheese. He didn't know how to tell me to even make it, which is why he then had to go to make it himself. I mean, because I obviously wasn't going to make it for him anyway, because fuck you, buddy. But that's besides the point. I can't, you're muted, sweetie.
Oh, but see, that's toxic too.
What? Which one?
By you immediately saying, well, fine, I'm not going to do it for you anyway.
Probably, but if he would have presented the information better, I wouldn't have felt that way.
Correct. I mean, like I said, it was negative across both sides.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So, by the way, not the funniest part of this, but it's also funny because do you know how he wanted it?
He wanted them flattened, right?
Correct. He just wanted them to be flat. And apparently, if they're flattened, then they crunch, which is the sound that a grilled cheese makes. And yeah, so I'm still a little bit toxic about it because I'm still clearly like, and there were other things that occurred before that and after that, obviously, that still like irritate me about that particular situation. So I'm still a little bit sassy about it.
By the way, I love your shirt.
I know, right? Me too. Isn't that great? It's great.
But yeah, so all right. So another toxic trait that I have is I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So I talked about the joking thing. No, I can't think of them.
That was a bad idea. Interrupting cow.
Mer?
You interrupt sometimes.
That I do.
Which I do too. So yeah.
No, I do interrupt. But I don't know if that's a toxic trait so much of as a well, no, actually, you know what it is.
It can
because you know what, and not all the time though, but in generally speaking, when I do that, I'm doing it because I feel my point is more valid than yours, and I need to get my point across louder than you're making your point.
Right. Yeah, that's a toxic trait.
Yeah, but I don't think it's definitely not all the time. Some of the time it's just, oh, I think I can add something to this conversation real quick. Let me just throw this in there.
Right.
But that's not that. I don't think that's toxic. Now you might feel differently about that, but now the other part of it is generally speaking, the other 90% of the time I'm doing it is because I think my point and the thing that I'm trying to say is more valid than what you're saying. So I'm interrupting you to make that point because I don't think what you're saying is correct.
Right.
So thanks for pointing that out and make me feel low.
This is literally an episode about toxic. Just don't start with that guilt trip shit. All right. I'm going to call you out.
I didn't want to do this anyway. Why'd you make me do this?
Oh, one thing I think you said one time is about apologizing. Did you say something like that? Do you have a hard time apologizing or admitting when you're wrong? That's what you said, admitting when you're wrong.
I used to have a big problem admitting when I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because now it's more like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Now that now that I'm properly medicated and I'm, especially now within the last 2.5 weeks, now that all that corporate bullshit stress is off my shoulders, and now it's just me, being me,
right?
For like the first time ever. I mean, I feel more in control of my life than I ever have. So I'm more willing to listen. And so I feel it's gotten easier over the last couple weeks. But even before then, I feel I was getting better at it.
Yeah.
Before I was just apologizing just to get you to shut up. And then I would bring it up again later just to piss you off.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
That's a toxic trait, motherfucker.
Yes. Oh, so that's another toxic trait.
What?
Okay. So say, for instance, you and I, again, you and I were married, and there was an argument from 5 years ago. Okay. Or 7 years ago. And then we thought the argument was over. And then you bring it up every once in a while just to throw it in my face. There's a great example of this in the TV show How I Met Your Mother. Okay. In the final season, there's an episode where, did you ever watch the show?
I mean, How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I haven't watched it in a long time, so I don't remember.
But did you watch the whole series?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
We watched the whole thing.
All right. So in the final season, you find out that Marshall gets a job as a judge.
Sure.
And he hides it because him and Lily are supposed to be moving to Italy to pursue her dream. Well, yes. So he hides that from her. And then eventually it comes out that he's hiding it from her. He took the job, whatever else. And then they get into the point where they start arguing about the fact that he took the job without talking to her and yada, yada, yada. And then he says to her at one point, he goes, when this all become about you? And then they're going back and forth again. He goes, you literally broke up with me and moved to San Francisco. Now, this was something that happened 7 years ago.
Right.
And he brought it up. And then he's like, well, so is now just what me and Marvin and any future kids that we have just a consolation prize. And it's dude, that's fucked up.
I have such strong feelings about this. Oh,
but that's what I'm saying. But that is another thing. So bringing up those toxic traits, bringing up those past fights just to throw it back in somebody else's face during a fight that you're trying to win. Oh, you've done this to me before, so now I'm going to throw it back in your face.
But see, that's the thing. No, that's I have such strong feelings. Okay, listen, I do this. Okay, but let me tell you, I don't do it to throw it in someone's face. I am not bringing this up to hurt you. Here's the thing, okay, about it. And I'll tell you why he did it too, okay? Because the thing about it is when you repeat something and that person is triggered into that memory and they have the same feelings right then in that argument as they did when you did the thing 5 or 7 or 15 years ago, it doesn't fucking matter how long ago it was. That's the memory that they're going to bring up. And they're exact every time without fail. If you make them feel that way again, they're going to say, this is just like that time that you did this.
Correct. And I get what you're saying on that. But here's the point where I'm trying to make on this particular type of argument that I'm talking about. Say, for instance, I get a job offer. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And we're packed, ready to move because we got to move across the state. We got to move to a different country, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's my dream. And you're like, yeah, let's fucking do it. Let's fucking go. You're excited about it and everything.
Right.
You even talked me into taking it.
Sure.
Okay. Then 6 months go by, 3 months go by, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
You get your dream job offer. You no longer want to move. You hide it from me.
Right.
And then right before we're supposed to fucking move, you throw it at me and say, hey. And so now it goes back to not only were the one you were supporting it, we've already packed, we've already planned. You encouraged the move, but now something that came up because of what you want to do has come up.
So there's hold on. So pause for a second. So first of all, in that scenario, okay, the person who did the thing wrong first, which was hiding that he got the job so that he wouldn't have to confront the situation, is the person that is throwing something in the other person's face. So he probably did that in that situation out of guilt that he fucking felt that he fucking caused. So
Correct, but he was trying to use guilt against her to allow her to make her say, "Hey, let's just go ahead and say, forget my dream."
Right.
Because I've already fucked you over once.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's go ahead and pursue your dream. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, if you're trying to prove a point about something else, but not doing it for a guilt trip purpose, saying, hey, you've done this before, cut it out. That's different versus what I'm talking about in this situation is, bring up everything from the past just to prove your point.
Right.
And also guilt trip the person into doing what you want to do because of the mistakes they've made in the past.
Right.
That's toxicity at its finest.
Yes, I concur. And I think that we're all humans and we all have feelings. And so we can all at some point in time, be caught in that trap. Can we also talk about an interesting thing that I think is interesting? Okay. There are people that I can exhibit toxic traits with or to that I won't exhibit with anybody else. Do you have that? Do you do that?
Maybe I don't know of an instance, but I possibly could. Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. So, like I said, my husband and I in the beginning were in a very toxic relationship, and we are both aware of this, and we have both grown together to fix it. Okay. So, one of the things that bothers me a lot about him, though, and the way that he communicates with me is that it is so incredibly important to him to be right. To a point, like it's a toxic trait that he has. Like it's bad. And I think that has to do a little bit with his spectrum, thing. But it bothers me. And before I knew what was going on and why he did that and understood it a little bit better, I refused to tell him or say the words to him that he was right. And I've told him this. If we were having a disagreement or if we were having a conversation and I figured out that he was correct, I would just say, okay, I understand. Yep, you're correct. I got you. But I would never say the words to him, you're right. Because it was his toxic trait. And I felt like if I was saying you're right and giving him that thing that he wanted me to say, then he would be winning essentially, or he would feel like he had won when in reality, like he had started this argument or this conversation and turned it into something that it never should have been to begin with in order to get the you're right out of it. And so for a very long time, I would never tell him that he was right.
Okay. So I have this exact same problem.
Okay.
And it was just so eloquently pointed out to me.
Eloquently, huh?
Eloquently. Just by these staring eyeballs on Facebook Messenger.
Right.
Here's looking at you.
Right.
The thing about it is, like, it's not even like I won't even do it in an argument.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just be having a common discussion.
Right.
And and
I'm the same.
I'll just be like, no, I don't think you're right. No, trust me. I think I'm right. No. Let me look this up. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like I'm invalidating everything that we just said. But at the same time, I'm also invalidating whether or not you're I believe whether or not you're smart enough to comprehend.
Yes.
The whole
thing. That's what angers me. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not that I'm
trusting me enough to believe me at all. And because it happens so often, it feels like he doesn't trust me at all type thing. And that's what winds up happening.
Yeah. So I am guilty of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this person is very much pointing out the obvious, and it's about the stupidest shit too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean it really
Yeah.
is, and it's
I'll give you the perfect example. My husband and I had an argument, okay? Like a not a knockdown drag out fight, but we were yelling at each other, okay? Because he didn't believe me and he legitimately believed he was right and he was wrong. He was super wrong, okay? We had an argument. Okay, don't laugh. I know it's fucking stupid, okay? But we had an argument about if Disney World was better than Disneyland.
Disney World is better than Disneyland. That's easy.
Thank you. I'm aware of this. And that's what I said. He didn't believe me. He's like, no. He's like, when everybody talks about going to Disney, they talk about going to Disneyland because it was the original. Bitch, no. They talk about going to Disney World. Disney World is bigger than Disneyland. And he's like, no, it's not. Disneyland is the original. So it's bigger. Land and World. That literally tells you in the title which one is bigger. And so I had to call my sister and he finally conceded because I called my sister though. I was like, Jamie, because I called her. It was funny because she never allows people to call her first thing in the morning, but it was like 9 o'clock in the morning. And so I called her and I put her on speakerphone and I said, Jamie, when people talk about going to Disney, which one do they want to go to? And she was like, Disney World. That's the one in Florida, right? And I was like, yes, thank you. And it finally, because she said that, he was like, all right, fine. You're probably right.
Yeah. So
probably.
So I'm going to go ahead and validate your point there. First off, Disney World has 4 parks.
Yeah.
And then it also has, now it's called, I don't remember what it's called now. But we used to be called Downtown Disney. Now it's called something else. But then there's also like 50 fucking hotels and at Disney World versus 2 at Disneyland.
Exactly.
They have the the Grand Californian, and then they have like the whatever the other one is called. But like, yeah, there's only 2 parks, and it's small, it's cramped, no.
I know, and he knows this now too. Guess what? When we went to Disney for the first time, where do you think we went?
World.
Exactly. You want to know why? Because Disney World is better than Disneyland.
That's true. But no, as far as like the being right thing, like I said, you hit the nail on the head with that. I am just that as bad as that. Again, it could be about the stupidest shit, and it could be something that's not even on topic.
It's like, so infuriating. You know that?
And so to the person that pointed this out, I apologize.
Aww.
Now, and for every time I've done that, and for every time in the future that I may do that.
Right. Because it ain't gonna stop.
So to you, my dear, I apologize.
Aw, thank you.
And now she's laughing at me because but I'm dead serious, because that is something that I know that I did. I know that I do. It's bad.
So a toxic trait that my husband mentioned is about not apologizing. People who don't apologize. Mm-hmm. That's a toxic trait. And he said something about they make you prove yourself to them. And I don't know how to take that, honestly, because because he said that, I wonder if we both do that to each other.
So I can tell you that. Okay. What? So I'm not going to really go into details on what I mean by this. So I'm going to be very general.
Well, then I'm not going to know what you mean.
No, I'm going to be very general. Just hold on. Mm-hmm. Say, for instance, you're with you and your husband, okay? Mm-hmm. And you guys are hanging out at the house, whatever the case might be, and then, having a great night or whatever. and he tells you, hey, I'm going to be going out with Billy Bob on Saturday, just to let you know. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then you get jealous, about him going and hang out with a friend. Okay. Just hear me out. Because now he's leaving you at home alone on a Saturday night. Why can't he spend the time with me? Why does he have to go hang out with Billy Bob? Okay. So then at that point, you start making him validate his feelings for you and validate the things that he says are true, just to make sure that you know that he still loves you, even though he's going to hang out with a friend and leaving you at home alone.
I mean, yes, I can understand how that would be a toxic trait, but I've never.
I don't think he's saying that about you. I think he's just saying that in general.
I think he's talking about like when we have arguments about Disneyland or Disney World, that we both try to prove our point to each other.
Okay, well then maybe I'm reading into it a different way, because I'm looking at it from that point of view, like constantly having to you constantly having to validate your feelings for him because him feeling insecure in a relationship, so you're constantly having to validate your feelings for him. So that's toxic on his part, that he can never believe that you truly love him, that you never believe that you truly want to be with him. So he's constantly asking you to revalidate those. So that could be toxic on the words.
Yeah. Totes and goats.
Now, somebody just pointed this up in the comments. Well, in my comment, needing words of affirmation isn't a toxic trait. That's true. And that's what we're talking about here. Needing words of affirmation. Okay. But I'm not talking about needing words of affirmation. I'm talking about, no matter what, you say you're going to go out with somebody and go hang out with a friend or whatever the case might be, and it's immediately, well, don't you love me anymore? That's what I'm talking about. Immediately, yeah. And that's what I'm meaning. Yeah.
That's the thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. While you're right. Well, she's right in saying words of affirmation isn't a toxic trait. No, because I am huge on words of affirmation. But I constantly
correct. Hey, Derek, I love that you did that. Thank you so much. I super appreciate you. Those are words of affirmation.
No, just, words of affirmation. No, like say, for instance, if I'm saying, hey, make sure you let me know when you get there, let me know when you get back, check in with me every once in a while, stuff like that, that's words of affirmation. But if every time, just hold on. Just
go ahead.
I'm talking about if you're going out with a friend.
Right.
And me just wanting to know where you are and check up on you and stuff like that, those are words of affirmation saying, hey, I'm validating the fact that you know that I'm out and whatever the case might be, and I'm okay.
I disagree. I don't think that's affirmation at all. I think that's sweet. So I would like it. I would appreciate it personally if I was like leaving and my spouse was just like, I just want to make sure you're okay, that you get home okay. If you need anything, call me. That makes me feel like I can rely on them.
Correct.
And it makes me feel secure in the relationship. But I wouldn't call that a word of affirmation. I would say that words of affirmation are like, I really appreciate, I love you, and I just saying things
Correct.
that I love about them.
I agree with you on that. But what I'm saying is, but if every time you say you want to go out and hang out with a friend, you constantly need that reassurance.
No, that's stupid. Don't do that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But, constantly saying, hey, tell me you love me or tell me that you appreciate me. That's different.
Yeah.
That's words of affirmation. But I'm talking about if you're saying, hey, I'm going out with Billy Bob. Oh, again, don't you love me? And no, come on. Why don't you see? That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
That's what I'm meaning.
No, I feel you.
I'm trying to figure out if she understands what I'm talking about. The difference.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what I'm meaning. It's a constant reassurance, basically saying, hey, I don't think you, because you're going to hang out with this other person or hang out with these other people, you don't love me anymore.
Right. No.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No,
yes.
I feel you. That's
no.
And I have also figured out that one thing that was hard for me. So two things here. One thing that was hard for me was to realize and accept that people are in charge of their own responses, reactions, and actions. So if if you were to say, hey, I'm going out with my friends, and the other person were to respond with, but why would you do that? Don't you love me? Can't you hang out with me? Why aren't we hanging out? And if it's a situation where like you never hang out, then yes, that's something that needs to be said. But if it's a situation where like you guys just hung out last night or the night before that, and like you guys hang out all the time and you don't have an issue like that in your relationship, then that's going too far. If I can't hear you.
Yes, but I think that comes back to something called and people are going to hear this and feel a little bit weird. Just trust me when I tell you. That comes back to something called toxic monogamy. Especially when it's been between a husband and a wife, or a wife and a wife, or a husband and a husband, or whatever the case might be. That you believe that they don't need anybody else in the world to fulfill their needs.
Well, and it's also a control thing.
Correct.
That people who are abusive do.
Correct.
That's one of those things that's actually one of the starting things in an abusive relationship, where the other person is like, oh, but I wanted to hang out with you. And they won't even necessarily put it like, don't you love me? They'll just be like, oh, well, you were going to go out with your friends. Oh, well, I had something, really special and like whatever planned for us. And they'll even go so far as to plan something special last minute so that they can have that time and like almost steal that time away from you having that time with other people.
Correct.
Whereas they could have just said, oh, well, I did have something planned, but I can schedule it for another day. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
You go have fun with your friends. If you need me, call me. If you need a ride home because you're drunk, go ahead and call me. I'll be there for you, babe. Yeah. And that's how they should respond. But if they're toxic, they won't respond like that.
Correct. I mean, it's overall just, I think this whole point of this conversation comes down to, about what we're talking about in this specific instance is the fact that no matter what, it's a trust factor on your partner's part.
Correct.
If they're going out hang out with a friend, or they're going to hang out with whoever, and you constantly need them to tell you, hey, whatever the case might be, or don't do that, come hang out with me. Yeah. It's a trust factor. So it comes back down to that's something within inside yourself.
Factor, because that is possession. That's
correct, but which is still toxic. So that's what I'm saying. So it's something that's within you that you need to figure out.
100%. Also, so one of my toxic traits, the other one that I had was that I help to a fault. And I'll give you an example. I know that sounds stupid, but trust me.
It does. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but I'll give you an example. So when I was completing my degree, it was all online, but I was a smarty britches. So I was in an international honor society, and I was president of my chapter, which was an online chapter, like it was a whole thing. Well, because we were an online chapter, all of our officers were spread throughout the whole country. Okay. And we still did events, but they were basically all online. So like you shared, with your friends on Facebook, and we shared it on the chapter Facebook that all had, likes from people in the school, and stuff like that. So there was a guy who was doing an event, or wanted to do an event with an organization, and he was going to help raise money for the organization, was the idea. But when you do things like that, you have to get the organization's permission and actually talk to a person in the organization. Well, when he called the organization, he left a message, but nobody ever called him back. And this was like a week, and we were on a time crunch. Okay. But I was trying to be helpful. And so when he emailed me and was like, oh, I tried to call a couple times and I left a message, but nobody's ever responded to me. I was trying to be helpful and call the organization myself and help him to get an answer, or to get into contact with somebody else, or to do something else. And I figured if two people did it from the same organization, then maybe they might respond if we just put a little more pressure on them, something. Well, so I told him that I called there and told them what the situation was, right? And I emailed him and I was like, here's the number and here's the name to the person that you need to talk to. I called them and got it for you. Do you want to call, or do you want me to call? Like, I don't care. I thought I was helping. He was pissed. I didn't understand because I had to call my sister and I was like, I don't know why he's mad. Like, I genuinely have no idea what I did wrong. I thought I was trying to help him, and I don't care who does it. I wasn't saying that he was incompetent or incapable of doing it. I was just trying to help. And so my sister had to explain to me that he did think that I was saying basically that he was incompetent or couldn't do it. And that completely went over my head. And I had zero idea. And by the time I had realized what had happened, I couldn't even call him and apologize because he was so pissed. He wouldn't answer my phone calls or my emails or he quit the chapter because I did that. He quit as an officer because I did that. And so I still feel so bad about it.
Yeah. So I mean, that comes back down to what we just talked about as far as trust. You basically just told him that you don't trust him.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same thing that we were just talking about. It's just in a different way. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, trust of a partner, trust of a friend, trust of a, sibling or whatever the case might be.
Right.
Anytime that you go out of your way to help them, without looking at it, whether you believe it or not, sometimes, I mean, it can be the fact that you don't believe that you don't trust them. It happens a lot with bosses too. Now, I'm not saying this is an every time situation.
No, of course.
No. I'm simply saying that in some cases, that's how it's looked upon. Okay. And sometimes in your own head, that's why you're doing it. Even when I was a boss, now I thank God I'm not. I only boss myself around. I did that a lot too. I would, hey, go ahead and do this. And if it didn't get done right away, I went ahead and did it right away. Yeah, because I knew that I could get it done the way I wanted to get it done, regardless of whether or not I trusted you or not. I just wanted it to get done. Mm-hmm. So whatever. But in reality, I didn't trust that person to get it done.
Right. Yep. And it can be hurtful, but yeah. How I don't know how to stop that, honestly. I have
it's trust. It's what it really is. It's all trust.
I think trust is harder than stopping for me. So in some cases, I have just stopped trying to do things for other people because there have been a couple other instances where something like that has happened. And I have to realize that I should not just do or just help unless someone asks for help. And I know that can be hard for some people. And that's why, before I was doing it, because I understand that it can be humbling and some people struggle with asking for help, but I have to realize that I can't help them until they ask for help anyway, because they don't want the help until they specifically have to say, I want your help. So I have just stopped trying to help unless someone asks for it.
And that might be the best way, but sometimes people have a problem with asking for help.
Yeah. Well, and in that instance, sometimes if I can see that someone needs help, I'll be like, do you want my help? I can help.
Now, offering it is probably the better way to go. Yeah. Instead of sometimes waiting for it, I think offering it might be the best way to go. Yeah. Like, I know that I'm one of those people that I hate asking for help.
Right. Yeah.
And it's to a fault. I mean, a big time.
Right.
And it's gotten me into a lot of different arguments and accusatory things to where it's not like I'm completely ignoring you or whatever the case might be. It's just,
right.
I think I can do this on my own. But at the same time, if I know that I'm, failing at it, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, I mean, sometimes offering it might be better than holding back.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, in this last hour and 6 minutes, we've talked a lot about stuff that we've gone through and stuff like that. And there's a lot of stuff that we probably don't even recognize at this point. Mm-hmm. And sitting here listening to it, the people watching at home or the people watching later on, in replay are going to sit there and listen to this and go, well, I don't do that, or I don't do that.
Right.
Sometimes you just need to take a step back and say, do you really, or do you really not? If you notice that some of the things that you do on a daily basis causes any type of strife
Or stress. Mm-hmm.
on anybody else in your life, then you're doing something toxic in some which way. It might be minorly toxic.
Oh yeah.
It might just be something stupid.
Yeah.
You know, just a way that you're wording something.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I can tell you a minor thing that that's a good suggestion, Jerry. Thank you. He said I got she, I don't know. Sorry. I got in the habit of asking. Oh, okay. I got in the habit of asking, do you want to vent about this or do you want to find a solution? Another thing that I got in the habit of saying is, do you have the bandwidth to listen to me vent type thing? Because there are times where I really want to help out a friend, but I just can't take any more on emotionally for the day. And I'll be like, listen, I love you, but I need you to find somebody else right now because I'm dying myself. So I can't help you.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was saying. Oh, minuscule. I sometimes leave my clothes on the floor and in front of my dresser, especially like when I'm getting dressed. And that drives my husband up the wall. And it's probably a toxic trait.
Of you or him?
Of me.
I think that might be a little bit more than the toxic trait.
Probably.
Well, no. Well, let me tell you, because I've seen this a lot in military situations.
Really?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Okay. So what it is you fighting that, you know, because, you know, making the bed with the hospital corners, you know, making sure that this is put away exactly this, things are folded in such a way and all the time, because that's how they went to boot camp. And then before they were able to live off of base, that's how they lived.
Yeah, totally.
So they took all that with them. Now that they're able to live off of base in their own real world society, they still brought that with them. Sometimes the wife or husband, vice versa, doesn't matter, will say, well, wait a second, now we're in my home. This is how I live. We're not living the military lifestyle. Your sergeant's not going to come in here and check the fucking hospital corners on the bed.
Yep.
So you subconsciously say, fuck it, I'm going to throw this on the floor.
And that's how he says that he feels. But I don't, I have another live that I have to get to, but okay. I do things like this. Like I'll leave the cereal out after getting cereal for our kids and I'll leave the box on the counter and completely forget to put it away. I don't know why I do this. I think it's because when I was younger, I would sometimes get 2 bowls and I would leave it out in case I wanted the second bowl. So I wouldn't have to go back to the cabinet to get it. I don't know. Or because I'm a toxic, dirty, gross person. But point is, I don't think about it that way. I barely register that I even did it. And he's like, you're just doing it to piss me off, or you're just doing it because you don't care about my feelings. And he takes it very personally. Correct. And I'm like, bro, it has 0 to do with you. Yeah. 0. And I'm sorry that it has 0 to do with you, I think. But I don't know how to take that. I don't know what to do with that. No. And that's one of those situations where I'm like, I'm sorry that you took it that way, but that is a whole your own issue. I can't do anything for you on that one. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. So you might be doing it subconsciously and not even realize it. But either way, that is our time for today. I know you got to go do another live. We're busy people. But again, guys, take a second and just really think about the things that you may or may not be doing on a daily basis that could be considered toxic. Even stuff that you don't do could be considered toxic. Yeah. So really take a hard look at your life and your relationships and really kind of, you know, focus on that for this week. And see if you can figure out what you're doing wrong or what you could be doing better. Not necessarily doing anything wrong, but what you could be doing better in your life to better foster better relationships in your life.
And if we missed any toxic traits, feel free to leave them in the comments.
Yes, or feel free to DM us either at Derek Comedy on Instagram or at The Teachable Soul on Instagram, or of course at Suck It Podcast on Instagram. And we'll address it next week. Next week we'll talk about something. We don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but trust me, this show is definitely going to help. I've gotten a lot of messages and people have been saying this is a really cool idea. So we're definitely going to continue this. So we will see you next Monday at noon. not noon East, 9 West. And then tonight I'll be back 8 o'clock East, 5 o'clock West with Gothic rapper Jason Chaos. This is going to be an interesting conversation. So definitely check me out tonight.
That sounds
but
fun.
Until then, thank you guys very much. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your week.
You too. Love you. Bye.
Love you too. Bye.